So what this is, for those of you who haven't seen early videos or me talking about it, these are all Brookville Roadster parts. The vast majority of them are seconds. So 90% of the pieces, there's probably something wrong with it. There's a laser cut weld somewheres, or a seam or a split or something. So what I'm going to do on its own project is I'm going to basically put this together. I mean, the sub rails are in pieces. They all have to be put together. I've done that before. I've actually built 5 of these. Behind the camera lady over there is our 32 Ford Roadster, which started life exactly the same as this. So I don't know if that was number 2 or number 3 that we built, but the same process. I'll make that an entire episode, or a number of episodes or projects all on its own. So we'll take all these bits and pieces, kind of like what we did when we were kids and we bought the Revel AMT model or whatever, and I'll fix the pieces, I'll put them together, and I'll show you how I did it. Hi, welcome back to Coldstream Rod Shop. I'm Derek Fraser. This is the first episode of us building the 32 Ford Roadster body. We've done it for ourselves, but never did it on video. So that's ours over there. And then behind the camera lady here are all of the pieces that would make up the 32 Ford Roadster. So in the first episode here, I'm going to go through building the sub rails. For those of you guys who watch Iron Trap Garage, he just did the same thing. He went out, he bought the Brookville Roadster sub rail pieces, put it together, and he put it underneath an existing 32 Ford Roadster. We're kind of be taking it a step back further. So some of the pieces that he bought welded or put together, I'm going to put together. So right now, what I have here is I've got the bottom section of the sub rail. I just attached it to the frame here with some clamps, and then I'm going to work my way through and weld it all together. This is the top section that's going to go on that. So I'm going to do both of these on both sides and then work my way through doing. So here's the next step. We last left off, I had the inner sub rail. I was welding it. So I did that side and I did this side. So this side now, it's completely welded, and I dressed it. You can see on the inside where I've got good weld penetration all along. So that's the lower subframe right there. It's going to go on it. The piece between the camera lady's legs here is the upper sub rail that actually is going to go on here. On the driver's side, I've actually put them together. So I've got the inner and the outer sub rail put together here and tacked in place. So that's it there. I'm going to carry on, and I'll just dress these welds up just a little bit. But in the factory, what they would have done is they would have spot welded here and there. And that's what they do at Brookville as well. They basically take a spot welder and they weld the two of them together. There is a little bit of dolly work that you have to do, because when you fit the inner sub rail into the outer sub rail, you've got to basically open this up so that they fit together, and then dolly them together and make a nice smooth surface here. So again, I'm just going to carry on with this. I'm going to dress those welds up a bit, put that on the frame, switch over here, do this one, and then I'm going to drill the holes into it. So here we are now. The passenger side sub rail is all put together and welded. I've drilled all the holes. As I described before, all these parts we got from Brookville were seconds, and the holes were seconds. They typically are laser drilled pinholes where the holes are matched, so I actually had to move a couple of the holes to suit the holes in the frame. So sub rail's done, both sides are bolted down. What I got to do now, these two cross pieces, I've got to weld them in place. So there's two pieces, I don't know if you want to call them dowels or whatever, but they come in under the bolts here, and then these pieces get welded on top. So I'll I'll clamp those down and weld them. Then I'll put the floor in, weld the floor in, and then I'm probably going to finish off this video by doing the firewall as well. So just keep watching along as we go and put the complete sub rails together for the 32 Ford Roadster. So I carried on with the rest of the subframe. I have the two cross pieces welded in here. I actually took the whole subframe back off, flipped it upside down, and I welded those dowels like I showed you a couple minutes ago underneath. So the dowels are welded to the cross pieces. The cross pieces are welded to the subframe, and then I spot welded or made it look like I spot welded the floor pan underneath the seat and the floor pan to the back of the body. There are two pieces that will weld underneath the floor pans here. I don't put them in right now. They go in when I put the back half of the car in. So this is kind of sitting up here right now, but that's fine. Essentially all I did, I drilled some 3/16 holes here, about, I think they were about 4 or 5 inches apart. Just welded them to the subframe. So the subframe's in, the floor pans are in, and then next up, like I said, I put the firewall together. So when you get these firewalls from Brookville, you can order them completely put together, but the way we ordered them, we got them with all these parts. The feet were seconds, everything was seconds, so the feet had to be trimmed across the bottom here on both sides, and even the sub rails had to be trimmed back on the end here as well, so it would go on. And then what I did is I took an original firewall over here, measured the overall height so that I could get this firewall at the same height. And if you come around front here, there was some holes here on the firewall feet. I just opened them up a little bit. I clamped everything in place, made sure everything was square, everything was the right height, and then I like to have my feet splayed out to the sides like the originals are. Brookville, I think when you buy them, they have the feet going basically straight up and down, but if you go look on an original firewall, these feet are actually splayed out on an angle like they are right here. So that's the firewall. The floor pan and the sub rail is done. That's the end of this episode. The next episode we're going to do is put together a string of videos of building the cowl sides and the cowl top, and that'll be the next step on building the 32 Roadster. Hi, welcome back to another episode of Coldstream Rod Shop. I'm Derek Fraser. This is going to be part 2 of building the 32 Roadster body. This video is going to be about making the cowl sides, both of these sides, and the top section. Come on over here and I'll show you the bits and pieces I'm going to work with. Oop, if I don't kill the camera lady there tripping over the extra engine stand. Can't have enough engine stands, by the way. So over here, what I've done, I've laid out kind of all my pieces that I'm going to need, I'm going to be putting together. Some of the pieces, like I said, well, actually not some, but all of the pieces have something wrong with them. So this is one of the cowl sides. We bought it as a second, so it's missing a piece here. I'm going to have to basically make a piece to repair that. Some of them aren't trimmed properly. Some of them have to have the holes opened up. Anyway, I've done all this stuff before. I'll go through each thing. Over here, I've begun the one driver's side cowl part. So essentially what I start doing is I'm going to attach the A-pillar post to the cowl side first. I'll weld that in place. Then there's a bracket that goes across here. There's actually a foot that will slide up inside of here that will lock into the subframe. That won't get added in until I actually put the two cowl sides and the cowl top. When I put that on the firewall and bolt it through the bolts on the side, then these pieces will go in. So I'm going to weld this piece up, and then I'll show you that when it's done. It's relatively straightforward. It's all a matter of clamping everything up, doing spot welds along the sides, and the same way with the support, it gets welded in. But like I said, this isn't like we're using first-rate parts. I've had to actually trim a few pieces to put them in because they're seconds and they cost a whole lot less when we do it this way. So need lots and lots of vice grips. I'll tack weld this. I'll assemble it. I'll show you where the welds are in a few minutes. It'll take me a while to prep this up and get it ready to weld, and then we'll carry on. Okay, so I have welded the A-pillar onto the cowl side, welded the bracket in place. So along the side here, basically just spot welded and dressed it, made sure that the A-pillar is square. Like I've repeated myself a few times, most of these panels were, I think even when you buy a good panel from Brookville, there's a little bit of trimming work that you have to do. But right now I've trimmed the bottom so it fits in. I had to trim around here the gasket so it would fit in. So I've trial fitted the first cowl side here to the side of the body. This bracket, like I said before, it goes in once we weld the cowl in place and have the doors aligned. So that's the first one. Over here, the second cowl side was more of a second than the other ones, so I'm in the process right now of repairing this section here. The lip was basically gone. I think in Brookville, when they did it, they had laser cut it halfway through. So I'll finish the repair on this, build it back up and trim it, and then I'll assemble this cowl side the same way I did the other one. Once both of these are done, then I'll work on the top section. So here we are. I've got the passenger side quarter panel all put together. It basically fits in place the same as the other one. So I'll just take it off here and I'll show you what I did. So on this one, just a few minutes ago, I had to make a repair to this lip and put a new section in. I'm just going to finish sanding the inside here. So that was repaired. And there's a reinforcing ring that goes on the inside. I don't know if it's called a ring or a rib. This is what it looks like here. This is what it looks like on the top cowl section. I had to put that in. The other thing that had to go in was the I don't know if you call them the Firewall tightening legs or the cowl tightening legs. These are bronze pieces. What I typically do is I will get like a nut or a bolt or something. I'll drill the hole through and I'll clamp it in place. It goes about 3/4 of an inch up from the bottom. I'll push this through this side, and then what I do is I just do like a little weld. I push it through and clamp it in place. Do a little weld here that looks like mimics kind of like a spot weld, kind of like the originals would have. So that's the cowl side done. Both sides are done like that. Everything is all welded. Next up is a little more challenging. It's the top of the cowl. Again, I'm working with seconds. So this was a cowl we got from Brookville. They must have tried to assemble it, so there's some damage here. I'm going to have to fix that up. Also, this section here is a reinforcing piece that goes inside there. So these flanges have to be measured and bent over to 90 degrees. So they'll sit here. And then there's these pieces here I'll go through that will fit there and then fit down over the top of the cowl sides. Oh, one other thing I had to do was drill all the holes on the top here because the top of the cowl is bolted to the cowl sides. So I'm going to carry on with this. I will probably measure it up, maybe even get the camera lady to film me folding the edges over onto it and putting some stuff in place there. Okay, so I went and measured the cowl bracing on R32. It seemed to be a little longer than this one because on my first attempt I bent the flanges too long and it wasn't good enough. So I'm going to do a second measurement from there. We're going to rebend the flanges and trial fit it here. So just go over to the brake here and we'll bend these two flanges at a 90 and trial fit it. Not a lot of real estate here. So the first measurement I had was 3/8 of an inch. It's more like an inch. So one good thing about metal, you can bend it. If you bend it one way, you can bend it back. So there's one side. I'm just going to do an inch on this side. And then we're going to go try it. So there's the two flanges bent in. We're just going to go try it in the sheet metal, the cowl. And see if I got it this time. There we go. That side's really good. That side there, I might have to tweak it up. So we're going to go with that. I'm going to carry on here. Like I said, there was a lot of damage to this piece here. I've got to dolly it in, and there's quite a big dimple there. That's the way we got it, but that's one of the that's why we paid what we paid for it. So I'm going to dolly this down, bring it down to the flange, make sure everything is good. Then I'm going to carry on working with these pieces. These pieces can be quite miserable to fit in because they're basically a raw stamping. So they've got to be trimmed and then welded in place. But the intent of this, it goes in here, it meets up with the reinforcing piece. So it's just, like I say, a raw piece of sheet metal that Brookville, when they assemble stuff, they trim it. And they've got little jigs or whatever. It'll take me a little while to do that, but I'll show you the finished product in a few minutes and show you where I trimmed it. Okay, so I carried on and I dollied up the edge here, the side molding, and then I took each one of the cowl sides, I placed it over the top of the cowl top. I drilled the holes to put the 1/4-inch bolts in, put them in place. As you can see on the bottom, there's actually a reinforcing piece. We may not have, we'll insert a picture. It's up underneath here. It actually sandwiches the two pieces of sheet metal together and connects up with the reinforcement piece or underneath the cowl. I've worked on one of these pieces so far. So like I said, this is what we start with. It's kind of like a rough stamping. And then I have to trim it and bend the edges. Right now I've got it positioned here, and this one is basically ready to weld in, and then this would dolly over. When the cowl gets installed onto the subframe, the cowl sides will actually come in like this a little bit, and then I'll drill a little hole here and I'll weld this in place. The originals have a rivet that goes between these 2 points. So what I'll be doing with these is I just drill a hole through and weld it once everything is all in place on the car. So I'm going to carry on. I'm going to trim this piece. Here, I'll show you there's the difference between what I've got to do. I've got to trim the tops, and then on the back, you've got to bend the tabs in. So a little bit more dolly work on that, but that piece is ready to weld in. I'll weld this, trim this, and then tidy it up. Like I said, I'll do the other one. And then the final fit, I'll take this whole cowl section and I'll mount it on the subframe there, and that'll be the end of the video. So here we are. I have the cowl on the body, or on the subframe now. Like I said, there was a few things I had to do. One of which was to weld this little piece into the A-pillars here. So basically drilled a 3/16 hole, put the welder up high, did a nice penetrating weld on that. And then up inside here, there's these little pads, reinforcing pads for the windshield stanchions that have to be welded in place so that when you drill through, you've got something to bite into. There's a better picture of the plate that goes on top between the cowl sides and the cowl top. On the bottom here, as I told you before, the bottom part of the A-pillars aren't welded in yet, but they're installed now, so kind of have to use the fine adjustment tool. So it's this piece here, it slides into the A-pillar, then it slides down on top of the subframe. It's not welded because when I put the doors on, I may have to shift the A-pillar forward or back a little bit, because the next step is to make the doors with the hinges and then get the doors perfectly square to the subframe. Two adjustments will be here on the A-pillar itself, and then also the firewall feet around the front here. I'll show you over here, I guess. Right down here. So the firewall feet are screwed into the frame now. I've got them adjusted up where I want them. So the adjustment for the doors is going to be a combination of loosening or tightening these, and then adjusting the A-pillars forward or back. That'll be the next episode of building the doors. The cowl band here, the reinforcing band, I put that on, and I've got that tack welded and spot welded in place here. Got to do a couple little dress up things before I move on to the doors, like just weld those or grind those welds up a little bit, and probably get the wire wheel out and clean off some of this rust that was picked up when it was transported here. I got wet. So that's it for the 32 Ford cowl assembly. Building sides and the top, and I'm putting it on the subframe. So that's part 2 of building the Roadster. Part 3 coming up. Like I just said, we're going to build the doors, put the hinges, drill and tap the hinges into the A-pillar, have those all adjusted. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please shoot me a message. I'll try my best to answer them. If you want a more close-up picture of any of the things we put together, send us a message. We'll try and get them to you on Instagram or Facebook or however you get in touch with us. That's it for now. Again, hope you enjoyed it. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.